Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tanya Files. So, I'm really getting tired of content creators being one sided when it comes to discussing abuse between men and women. So, there are people who will complain that people only talk about how men abuse women, but won't discuss how women abuse men. But then those same people who are making those complaints will talk about how women abuse men, but don't talk about how men abuse women. Well, it has to go both ways in order to be two-sided. Otherwise, you're one-sided. They won't admit to it, but it's true. Now, I saw in a YouTube video that if this is accurate, women abuse men 52% of the time, while men abuse women 48% of the time. That's only a 4% difference. And people need to stop acting as if it's like a huge gap. Unfortunately, both genders are just as guilty when it comes to the ones who abuse people. Now, not all men are abusive, and not all women are abusive. But if you're going to be an advocate to end abuse, you have to talk about both sides. Because I've been betrayed by both men and women. But unfortunately, I have been hurt more by men than women. It's true. And here's some things that people need to consider. Abuse is never okay. And whenever there is abuse in a relationship, I always wonder, why is it? Like, are they fighting over money? Is the man cheating on the girl? Or is the girl cheating on the man? And instead of breaking up, they just lead to violence? Or do they just argue a lot due to stress or depression? But here's the thing, though. Abuse is only going to make it worse. But here's the thing, though. Let me give you an example, okay? Let's say, for example, there's a guy named Fred, and he goes to a bar. He meets a woman named Amy. Okay? They talk. Fred is interested in Amy, but there's a problem. Amy has a boyfriend. But she claims that her boyfriend is abusive and all this other stuff. But Fred is still interested in her. And she said that if she slept with him, he would be let's just say he wouldn't be the first guy that she's cheated on her boyfriend with. But instead of saying, well, if your boyfriend is abusive, then break up with him and go out with me and see what happens. But if he doesn't say that and he sleeps with her, Fred is just as guilty as Amy is when it comes to backstabbing Amy's boyfriend in the back. And it's the same thing if it was the other way around. So, And there was even a time, I'll give you an example of a woman who I do not have any respect for. So, if you saw the show Teen Mom 2, you would probably know a girl named Leah. So, when she was 16, she and her boyfriend Robbie broke up. She went to a party with a guy named Corey, and after only being together for a month, let me repeat that, a month, she found out she was pregnant with twins. And then the pressure of having twins at, I think she was 17 by the time they were born, she was complaining that Corey wasn't helping her at night, even though he was the one who was working and she wasn't working. And yes, both the man and the woman should help with children because they made the children together, but if he has to work, he can't help it as much at night because he has to sleep. And then they just kept arguing a lot. And then she said, I ended up cheating on him with my ex-boyfriend, Robbie. No, Leah, you didn't end up cheating on Corey. You chose to cheat on Corey. And Robbie is just as guilty as you are when when he slept with you. Because he knew that you were in a relationship with Corey and didn't give a damn. And then she said that cheating on Corey with Robbie was a mistake, and then she really wanted to be with Corey. But then when Corey found out that Leah cheated on him with Robbie, he rightfully broke up with her. And then she was so upset, she basically begged him to come back, and he wasn't buying it at first. And then, after a while, he forgave her. They very quickly moved in and quickly became engaged, and I think they got married I don't know. It wasn't even, I don't even think it was 6 months later and they were married. So let's see. And so there was some other problems and stuff. But then, at the end of season 2, Corey heard a rumor about Leah, and he wanted to confront her about it. And he said, so I heard a rumor the other day. She was like, what? And he was like, that you had sex with Robbie a week before our wedding. Is that true? And she was like, I cheated on you. And I did not feel bad for her at all. Because all she did was repeat history. And do you know what her excuse was? Because right before the wedding, she and Corey were not having sex. Newsflash, Leah. Sex is how you ended up pregnant at 16 with twins. And if you were so tired as much as you claimed, sex should have been the last thing on your mind. And besides, when you're teenagers, you shouldn't be having sex anyway. I'm sick of this. And so, Corey rightfully filed for divorce. And then Leah quickly moved on to a guy named Jeremy. And again, they were not together very long, and she got pregnant But then she had a miscarriage. They became engaged. And then they had a baby. But Leah was a huge spender, even though Jeremy was the one who was working. Now, it is true that Leah tried to go to nursing school, but she dropped out. And, yeah. And so Corey was, I'm sorry, not Corey. Jeremy was fed up about it. And he divorced her. And I think she was with, like, a few other guys after that. And then she recently was engaged a third time. And let's see. They were going to buy a house together. And of course, before they get married, even though she wasn't planning on having more children, her fiance wanted to have a baby. So she was like, I think I'm going to try to get pregnant before we get married. Well, let's see. That didn't work the first time you did it. It didn't work the second time when you did it. But maybe third time's the charm. Well, she didn't get pregnant by this guy. But then when the engagement was canceled, it was later revealed that he cheated on her. So let me ask you something. Do you think I felt bad for Leah when she was cheated on? No. Because now she knows how it feels. And so, what I have to say is, if you meet someone you like, but you know that either he or she is in a relationship, you cannot pursue anything with them. Now, even if this person claims that they were either in an abusive relationship or they're not happy in the relationship, then what you say is, well, then leave them and see what would happen with someone like me. Don't say, well, okay, let's sleep together. And then you cannot say that the two of you were dating when you weren't. You know, I'm tired of people trying to play the victim when they knowingly do things that they shouldn't do. If you sleep with someone who's in a relationship with someone else, you are just as guilty as the cheater. You are not a victim in that situation. I don't care what he or she said to you. The minute that you found out that that person was in a relationship, you'd be like, well, then you need to leave them. Or in the meantime, you know, I'm not going to break the guy code or girl code, whichever one applies to you. You know. So, let me give you another example. Okay? So, after my boyfriend of 3.5 years broke up with me, my best friend tried to set me up with a guy. And I think we were the same age, or maybe he was 1 year older. I don't remember off the top of my head. But his name was Gary. And I didn't know that much about him, but we texted each other for a little bit. And I told him about what my ex did to me and that I didn't want to go through something like that again. I don't want to be with a man who is going to control me or say like, well, you have to think this and think this and think this. No. And Gary told me that he was basically a sex addict, which is a problem, and that he loved to abuse women. And I was like, He just had pleasure out of it. And no, I'm not talking about rough sex. I'm talking about, like, literally abusing women. And he told me that he's done much worse things to women than my ex did to me. And I said, well, then get lost. We didn't go on a date or anything. I told him to get lost. Because that's the kind of guy that I do not have respect for. You cannot expect a woman to respect you if you are going to abuse them. And to women, you cannot expect men to respect you if you abuse them. It has to work both ways. It's like if you don't respect her privacy. If you try to, or if she tries to manipulate the guy. But here's the thing, though. Do not say that you want a person who is loyal, caring, understanding, will listen to you, and all this other stuff, but then go after someone who is the exact opposite. Because I see it a lot. And it does happen both ways. But in my opinion, nothing hurts more than when a guy who claims that he wanted a woman who was loyal and caring and understanding, but then twice, two different guys choose the exact opposite. So, there are a lot of things that people need to learn. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this two-sided episode. And yeah, I will do a lot more. I love you guys. I will see you in the comments.